So I, 22-year-old female, received a visit from my mom for New Year's. She came with one of my cousins, and we hung out for a couple days, and it was great. The only time things were bad was when she asked if I could loan her about $500, and she promised to cash at me the money back when she got paid next time. I told her no. She tried to argue with me, but I shut her down, and she let it go. A week later, I noticed my credit card was missing. I don't use it very often, usually just for a couple automatic bills. I had logged onto my account online to pay my balance since my check came through that morning, and I saw that my balance was much higher than I had expected. There were 3 charges I expected: my electric bill and my phone bill and some gas, and then several charges that I knew weren't from me. They were for fast food, clothing places, etc. I thought it might be a glitch, so I called my credit card company and checked my wallet for my card. I realized it was missing, and a nice customer service rep helped me with that whole process. But then I started walking through everyone my wallet had been around and every place it had been left since my last physical use of it. I ended up texting my mom because it was stressing me out, and I felt like I needed to talk to one of my parents. But Dad and I aren't on great terms. When I told Mom what happened, she told me not to worry and that it wasn't stolen. She had just borrowed it. To be honest, I did lose my cool once I realized she wasn't joking. She insisted she'd cash at me the money when she gets paid the next day, and that she thought she'd be able to handle it before I even noticed. I told her that's not acceptable, and to cut up my card, I deactivated it anyway. She got upset and told me to stop throwing a fit and that she can't believe I'm being such a brat about helping her. Things escalated from there, and I did call her some names before telling her to not contact, come around me, and hanging up. After that, I called the police, both in my area and in hers, to see which precinct I needed to file charges with. My mom has blown up my phone so much since this that I've had to block her, and she is posting all over Facebook about how I'm getting her thrown back in jail just for borrowing some money, and how she can't understand how she raised such a stingy child. Am I the idiot or losing my mind? I don't think I did anything wrong here. Edit. Good God, I didn't expect that much feedback. I posted this before I went into work, and I've been working through a serious customer rush since. I don't have much of my break left, so I can't reply to many comments until later. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the jerk. Also, many banks/credit card companies want a copy of the police report to refund your money. By not following through with the police, some places will believe you gave Mom permission to use the card and are attempting to scam businesses. Comment 2. Not the jerk. Don't let her guilt trip you. I got the feeling there is a long history of similar behavior in your past, and you have plenty of reasons for doing this, not just one incident. You do not need this toxicity in your life. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. I didn't expect to be back with an update so soon, but here we are. After I blocked my mom's number, I thought that would be the end of it. But nope, things got even crazier. The next day, my cousin, the one who came with my mom for New Year's, showed up at my door. He looked really uncomfortable and said he needed to talk to me about my mom. Turns out, he knew she took my credit card and felt guilty for not saying anything sooner. He said she'd been bragging about how she outsmarted me and how she was going to pay me back with money from her new boyfriend. I was fuming, but I thanked him for telling me the truth. I remembered how my mom had always been a bit reckless with money. When I was a kid, she'd often buy extravagant gifts for herself while we struggled to pay bills. It was like history was repeating itself, and I was the new target. The next day, I got a call from the police. They said they needed to talk to me in person. My heart was pounding as I drove to the station. The officer told me they had looked into my case and found out that my mom had a history of fraud. I was shocked. I knew she had been in trouble with the law before, but I didn't know it was for something like this. They also told me that the charges on my card were more serious than I thought. She had somehow managed to charge over $2,000 in just a few days. The police said they were going to arrest her, but they needed my statement to proceed. I gave them all the information I had, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. I thought that was the end of it. But when I got home, there was a letter from my mom in the mail. She was begging for forgiveness, saying she was in a bad place and needed help. She wrote about how she had been struggling since she lost her job, and how her new boyfriend had been pressuring her to keep up with his expensive lifestyle. She said she was sorry and that she loved me. I didn't know what to feel. I was angry, But I also remembered the good times with my mom. Like when she would take me to the park and push me on the swings, or when she'd bake cookies with me on the weekends. It was hard to reconcile those memories with what she had done. The next day, I got a notification from my bank. There was a deposit for the full amount that had been charged on my card. I checked my Cash App, and there was a message from my mom's account. She said it was all she could do to make it right, and that she hoped I could forgive her. I was stunned. I didn't know what to make of it. I had just started to process everything when my doorbell rang. It was my mom, in tears, with a police officer. She had turned herself in. She said she couldn't live with what she had done to me, and that she wanted to face the consequences. We had a long, emotional conversation. She apologized over and over, and I could see the regret in her eyes. I told her I needed time to think about our relationship, but I was glad she was taking responsibility for her actions. As the officer took her away, I closed the door and sat down, trying to process everything. My phone buzzed with a new message. It was from my dad, who I hadn't spoken to in months. He said he had heard about what happened, and that he was there for me if I needed anything. I was surprised. Our relationship had been strained ever since he and my mom divorced. I decided to call him back. We talked for a long time, and he told me about his life since the divorce. He had remarried and had another child, a half-sibling I didn't even know about. He said he wanted to make things right with me and be a part of my life again. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my dad dropped a bombshell. He said the reason he left my mom was that he had discovered she had a secret bank account with a lot of money in it. Money that she had hidden from both of us. He suspected she had been planning to leave him and take me with her, but she never got the chance. I was speechless. All this time, my mom had been struggling with money, or so I thought, but she had a secret stash. It didn't make any sense. Why would she steal from me if she had her own money? I hung up with my dad, my mind racing. I had so many questions and no answers. I decided to do some digging of my own. I went through old papers and documents my mom had left behind. And that's when I found it, a bank statement for an account with over $50,000 in it. The account was in my name. I couldn't believe it. My mom had set up a secret account for me when I was a baby and had been putting money into it all these years. But why? And why steal from me if she had been saving for me? Boyfriend of 3.5 years insists on making my morning coffee, but it never meets my preferences. This morning, he made me a machine espresso coffee. I, 24-year-old female, have been with my boyfriend, 25-year-old male, for 3.5 years. He knows I'm particular about certain things like tidying up and how I prefer to cook certain dishes. I make sure to do those things myself to avoid annoying him. Now, my morning coffee is very specific. I like 2 teaspoons of instant coffee, 2 teaspoons of hazelnut syrup, filled halfway with boiling water, and the rest filled with oat milk. I also have a specific mug for my morning coffee. I understand that I may sound annoying, but I am aware of it, so I always make it myself and never expect anyone else to make it exactly like that. When my colleagues make me coffee, I accept whatever they make and thank them. For 3.5 years, my boyfriend has witnessed me making my morning coffee this way. However, he has become tired of me refusing his offer to make coffee for me. I have shown him several times how I like it, but every time he makes it, it's not the right amount of coffee or hazelnut syrup. The cup he uses is not always the right one, but I can overlook that. I don't want to be annoying, but the coffee just doesn't taste the way I want it to. It's like my body isn't satisfied, and I keep craving my coffee until I get it. However, I don't want to have 2 coffees in the morning. I have told my boyfriend that I appreciate his gesture, but I prefer to make my own coffee in the morning. This morning, he got annoyed when he asked if I wanted coffee in bed, and I declined, saying I'll make it myself. He said, "I know you're going to get up and make one, just trust me." So, I trusted him, and he made me a machine espresso coffee with a bit of syrup and some milk. I thanked him, but I don't want to drink machine espresso in the morning. I have never consumed machine coffee in front of him because I don't like it. I always buy capsules for him because I remember how he likes his coffee. He got really angry at me and called me a jerk for not appreciating his efforts. I strongly disagree. It's been 3.5 years, and I have shown him at least 10 times how I like my coffee. At this point, I feel like he's trying to prove that I'll enjoy any coffee, but I genuinely can taste the difference. I don't understand why he won't simply make me the coffee I like if he's so determined to make me coffee. Once again, I never asked him to do this for me. I don't feel any gratitude for the gesture either. But am I being a spoiled jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. During my 29-year marriage, my ex never made my coffee correctly. Our son, numerous co-workers, staff, friends and family could make me a cup. I just wanted a splash of half and half. It's incredibly easy, and he chooses not to make it correctly. Tiny things like this show his true nature. He feels he's right when it comes to your morning ritual. I bet if you pondered this question, you will find other times he doesn't listen to you. My question to you is, why are you feeling guilty over his lack of respect towards you? Not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I love my coffee, and I like it good quality. Hate the instant stuff, because it has no flavor. But I'm not going to force someone to drink coffee that they don't like. You've shown him multiple times. He can't get it right. So no biggie. This may be stepping into relationship advice, but maybe suggest other ways he can do little things that you'll appreciate. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post about the coffee situation with my boyfriend. I thought it was just a small thing, but boy, was I wrong. So, after the last incident, things cooled down for a bit. My boyfriend seemed to understand my point of view, and I thought we had reached a silent agreement that I would make my own coffee. But then, out of nowhere, he brought home this fancy new coffee machine, claiming it would solve all our problems. He was so excited, like a kid with a new toy, and I didn't have the heart to tell him that it wasn't the machine that was the issue. He spent hours reading the manual, experimenting with different settings, and he finally presented me with a cup of coffee that he was sure I'd love. I took a sip, and it was okay. Not my usual, but I could tell he had tried. I thanked him, but I guess my face gave away my true feelings. He saw right through me, and the argument that followed was way worse than the first. He accused me of being unappreciative and impossible to please. I tried to explain that it's not about the coffee. It's about how I start my day with something familiar and comforting. It's a routine that I've had for years, and it's important to me. But here's where things got really heated. My boyfriend's sister, who knows about my coffee preference, decided to chime in. She told him that I was just being picky and that he should dump me and find someone who isn't so high maintenance. I was shocked. I've always been nice to her, and I couldn't believe she'd say something like that. My boyfriend didn't defend me. Instead, he just stayed silent, which hurt even more. I felt so alone in that moment, like it was me against the world. I retreated to our bedroom, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. The next day, I woke up early and made my coffee just the way I like it. I sat there, sipping it slowly, trying to calm the storm inside me. My boyfriend walked in, and I braced myself for another argument. But instead, he apologized. He said he didn't realize how much it meant to me, and that he'd stopped trying to change my morning routine. I wanted to believe him, but there was still tension in the air. We were both walking on eggshells, trying to avoid any topic that might lead to another fight. It was exhausting. Then, a few days later, I came home from work to find him in the kitchen, making his own coffee with the new machine. He looked up and offered to make me one, and I hesitated. I didn't want to go through another round of arguments, but I also didn't want to reject his offer again. So I said yes. And you know what? He made it exactly how I like it. It was perfect. I was so surprised and touched that I hugged him. It felt like we were finally getting past this silly coffee drama. But then, as we sat down to enjoy our coffee together, his phone buzzed. It was a text from his sister, and he made the mistake of reading it out loud. Did you finally get her to drink your coffee? Or is she still being a brat about it? I was furious. How dare she continue to meddle in our relationship? And why was he still discussing our issues with her? I confronted him about it, and he said he was just venting to his sister and didn't mean for me to hear that. We had a huge fight, and I told him that if he couldn't keep our private matters between us, then maybe we needed to rethink our relationship. He was stunned. He didn't think I would take it so seriously. Now, we're in this weird place where we're both trying to act like everything's fine, but there's this unresolved conflict hanging over us. His sister's comments have driven a wedge between us, and I don't know how to get past it. I love him, but I can't shake the feeling that he doesn't respect my boundaries. Dad cheated on Mom while she was pregnant with me and had another kid with the other woman who's now my sister. Mom kicked him out, and I lived with her until she passed away, and he was never involved in our lives. His new wife caused conflict during Mom's funeral. My sister's mom has been diagnosed with a neurological disease, and my dad is absent and struggling financially. We find love letters between our parents. Oh boy. I'm a 16-year-old male, and my sister is a 15-year-old female. Our father was married to my mom, but he cheated on her while she was pregnant with me. A few weeks after I was born, he got another woman pregnant, who is now my sister. My mom kicked him out, and I lived with her mostly, only seeing my dad every other weekend until I turned 6. Then, my mom passed away from complications related to her asthma, and I had to live with my dad. The reason I referred to him as dad is because he was never really a father to me. Sure, we lived with him for years, but he has never been involved in mine or my sister's life. He never showed up to anything or spent time with us. His wife was the one who tried to insert herself into my mom's funeral planning and insisted that I shouldn't be acknowledged as her son in the obituary. She caused a lot of fighting with my grandparents and aunts, uncles, and eventually got kicked out. She tried to get my dad to side with her and say that she had authority over me, but he did nothing. So, I stayed with my grandparents for a few days, and when I returned, she told me she was now my mom, and I should have respected her more. I was very disrespectful to her for years, and I don't even feel bad about it. I made her life miserable, and my dad was never around to do anything about it. She always made things worse by insisting that she was my mom. My sister hated me for how I treated her mom, and because she doesn't remember my mom, or the times when I wasn't always there, she refused to believe that I do remember, and she tells me that her mom is my mom in all the ways that matter. She thinks it's crazy how I make it seem like my mom did more for me than hers. She also told me that I should be grateful for having a larger family after my mom's death. So, my sister and I aren't close either. My sister's mom was diagnosed with a neurological disease in June. She's already struggling with some things and has regular medical appointments. My dad is basically gone all the time now. He hasn't helped his wife at all and isn't around for us, but that's nothing new. But now he is also bringing home less money. My sister is upset about her mom and has been taking her anger out on me. She is so disrespectful about my mom and has even wished harm upon her grave, just to upset me. But the other day, she told me that my mom was disgusting and ugly, and that she had been a bad wife and mom, which is why my dad chose her mom. She told me that her mom was so much better, and I should be grateful for her and do everything I can to take care of her. I looked her in the eye and told her that she is all alone in taking care of her mom, because I hate her mom, and I would never help her. She got really upset, broke down crying, and ran off to her room. Yesterday, she told me that I'm such a jerk, and that as her brother, I should love her enough to be better and support her. Am I the jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot for your feelings, but your sister shouldn't have ever disparaged your mother. However, she is 15 years old. She is losing the only parent who cares about her. You've experienced that and know how horrible that is. I hope you're able to contact other family and move in. Go to your school counselor/resources. Call your dad's wife's family on behalf of your sister so she can have support as well. Even if you hate her, she's a kid that needs help. It sucks you're in this position, and it sucks for your sister. You both need help. Comment 2. Oh, frick them. Not the idiot. They are trying to manipulate you, and you understood that a long time ago. She's sad her mom is sick. Let her guess how you felt when your mom died. I'm not saying you should necessarily be mean to them, but pay them no mind. It's not your problem. For as much as they want to appear as a happy family, they clearly never faced the problems of your mother passing and how it affected you at a young age. I get that you feel sorry for them, but remember all the psychological violence they did to you. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been 2 weeks since I last posted about the situation with my sister and her mom. And boy, do I have an update for you. Things have taken a tense turn, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. So, after the last blowout with my sister, things were tense at home. I mean, we were practically walking on eggshells around each other. But then, out of nowhere, my sister comes to me with tears in her eyes, clutching a bunch of old letters and photos. I was ready for another argument, but what she showed me stopped me in my tracks. Turns out, she'd been snooping around in our dad's office, something we were both too scared to do because of his strict keep-out policy. And she found a hidden stash of letters between our mom and dad. And not just any letters. These were love letters, full of apologies and plans for a future that never happened because of my mom's passing. I couldn't believe it. All this time, I thought my dad didn't care about my mom after he cheated. But these letters painted a different picture. They showed a man full of regret, who still loved my mom despite his mistakes. It was a lot to take in. But that's not even the juiciest part. Among the letters, there was one that was never sent. It was from my mom to my dad, written shortly before she died. She talked about forgiving him and wanting to try again for my sake. She never got the chance to send it, and my dad probably never knew. My sister and I didn't know what to make of it. We'd spent years building up this image of our dad as this uncaring cheater, and now we were faced with evidence that things weren't so black and white. It was a lot to process. Meanwhile, my sister's mom's health was declining faster than we expected. With my dad still MIA, my sister was struggling to handle everything on her own. She was missing school, losing sleep, and I could see it was taking a toll on her. One day, I came home to find her passed out on the couch, exhausted. I couldn't just leave her there. Despite everything, she's my sister, and I couldn't stand to see her suffer like that. So I started helping out. I drove her mom to appointments, picked up prescriptions, and even cooked meals on occasion. It was during one of these drives to the doctor that my sister's mom dropped a surprise on me. She confessed that she knew about the letters all along. She'd found them years ago and hid them, hoping to keep the peace. She said she always felt guilty for coming between my mom and dad, and she regretted the pain it caused everyone. I was floored. Here was this woman, who I'd resented for so long, showing remorse for her actions. It made me see her in a new light. I didn't forgive her completely, but I started to understand her a bit more. As for my sister, this whole ordeal brought us closer together. We started talking more, sharing memories of our mom, and even laughing together. Something I never thought would happen again. We were becoming a team, united by the chaos of our family. But just when I thought things were settling down, my dad finally showed up. He came home late one night, looking worn and defeated. He didn't say much, just went straight to his office. The next morning, he called us both into the kitchen for a family meeting. He told us he'd been laid off from his job and that money was going to be tight. He apologized for not being there for us and for his wife's illness. He even broke down crying, which I'd never seen him do before. It was a lot to take in. My sister and I exchanged looks, unsure of how to react. We were both angry at him for his absence, but seeing him like this, vulnerable and broken, it was hard to hold on to that anger. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.